show is brought to you by
Organissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.organissima.com. Organissima, New York. Your beauty is our duty.
Folks, welcome back to the EMBC Network, the Morocco channel, which is dedicated to Moroccans' resources and any entity that has interest in Morocco. And, this is a series of highlights of particular people in the States and around the world. So we will be talking to guests who will talk a little bit about their, path and to success and the things that they do and the contributions they do worldwide. And with me today, I have a friend and a dear friend, and he has a unique specialty, and we're going to talk about his specialty today. And, without any further ado, I have with me Idriss Lakhssasi. And Idriss, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Isham. I'm, very pleased to be with you today. Thank you.
Well, listen, the pleasure is mine. And, for our audiences, I think this is a good opportunity to start sharing with them, the values that, some of, our folks all around the world do. And also this is a channel also for other people that we have, that have some sort of interest or can benefit, the Moroccan culture and Morocco in general over, any opportunity out there. Right. But we have you today because, you do a lot of great work and that people may not know about. And today we're going to talk about your career path, your specialty, and the work you do, because some of us may not even be clear about what some of that job does, right? And how important it is. And whether, especially in the States, now for people that are watching for the first time, this is a show that is produced in the States. And luckily today with me, Idriss has actually the experience to have worked overseas and in the States. And we're going to talk about that contrast and how that works. So Idriss, let's talk about, your specialty. You are a civil engineer. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, civil engineer, that's the field. And I am what they call geomatics specialist. Geomatics, when I was in Morocco, they called engineer topograph. That means topographer engineer. And touching a lot of fields, remote sensing, which is reconnaissance through the satellite images.
Wow.
Also, the geoinformatics, what's its GIS? Now it's a latest field here in the 21st century. That means anything in infrastructure linked to geographic position. And also the GPS, which is the vast use worldwide, from driving to land planning. So this is my field. Prior coming to the States, it was also my field. That was my specialty. I went to school for that. So I start in Rabat as government employee. I was working with the Moroccan government in the same field. We used to do maps. We used to collect information about the cadastral infrastructure in Morocco, which is land use and land ownership in Morocco. Mm-hmm. In Morocco, they called kind of French word conservation foncière, which is the cadastral work. Once I came here in the late 90s, especially 97, so it was the only thing I could do here. It was my field, so I didn't have to go immediately to school, but my background was good enough to engineer. But after that, I joined, the NGIT for more certificates. That's what it is.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you for that. That's a lot of stuff, a lot of words there, a lot of technical terminology that you've covered there. And again, for audiences around the world, obviously this is for everybody, not just for the Moroccans. But just to clarify, I mean, you're talking about GPS, topography, land mapping, all the stuff. That's all, high-end, high-tech business. And, and we don't even know the practical. I mean, we have an idea of practicalities of where these things can be used. I mean, again, maps. We have these jokes now that nobody uses the old maps. I mean, back in the days, you used to literally have a map in your hands. Now you have, Waze, and you have Google Maps, and you have all these things that have, they use GPS positioning and all that stuff, and plenty of that. But before we get into the technical piece of it, I know you mentioned you started in Rabat, so that's my city too, where I was born. So hey, greetings to Rabat and our friends there and family. And but also you went to an engineering school, so I know that's a specific. Not everybody can access those schools. That I know for a fact. I mean, you have to have. I'm assuming you had a mathematical background. Is that what what the baccalaureate was? Okay, good. I got that. I got that right. So you did that, and then you started in the civil engineer in Morocco as a government administration engineer, right? Is that because I think by default there you have to do a couple of years of work in the community, and is that even still the rule? Or not?
You got that right. Before, if you remember, the late 90s. It wasn't like contractual. That means you don't have like a contract to sign. As you know, in Morocco, they take care of you in college. It's free college, free. It's paid by the government. But what they do this, to like get their own future employees. That means the people they needed. But in the late 80s, beginning of 90s, they have a problem, due to economic issue. So it wasn't mandatory. Once you graduate, if you can go to the private sector, is okay. But if the governments call you, you have to go. That's what it is. So it was like among like I can tell like the 10 first graduates, like the majors of all the. So the government they called them. So I was like appointed to work in Rabat. But that was back in, I know that you are familiar with that. It was the IAV, which is like the Agronomic and Veterinary Institute in Rabat.
Yep.
Even though people, they get like a little contrast, agriculture, veterinary, where is topography, where is that? Because it's an establishment linked to the Ministry of Agriculture in Morocco, so they have the topography on it. The topography was at that time was only filled either in Meknes, which another institute there, or when you go like for like college graduate, like it was at that time bachelor degree and up. Now they have only master degree. That means before you used to be like application engineer, or what they called field engineers. And now it's only engineer. It's like 6 years after the high school, and it's called state engineer. So that's what it was. It was specific, and they believe in the second decade. I believe like in 2010, 2011, they start having like other schools, especially in private sector, start like to invest in that field. So they start having like in Casablanca, École Hassania, which is like Hassania School for Public Works. They start also having like some topographer engineer, like GIS engineer, and so on.
All right. Well, so perfect. We're talking about the education part of there, and I know it's interesting that you mentioned that it's free scholarship for college there, but you do have to pay the dues eventually when you graduate. So you gotta at least commit yourself to a couple of years before you can move out and have your own private work. Actually, I similarly to you, I went to where your brother was.
Yeah,
To a different school. And similarly, we were supposed to actually give those 2 years. And now when I got to the States, I had to actually apply for a waiver. And so for people that have that opportunity, they can get a waiver from both governments and from the U.S. And U.S. Information Agency, I think, or I forgot, USIA or something. I forgot what the, no, I think it's, yeah, I forgot the name now. It's a U.S. agency plus the Moroccan government. You give you the waiver, and then basically you do not have that commitment any longer, and therefore you get dismissed from that duty, and you don't have to actually go back and work. Otherwise, they catch you on. Come back here, we need you. But again, it makes sense. I mean, they give you 4 years of run, for they pay for everything, and it's the least that you could do is to contribute. So there's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of people go through that, whether it's medicine or any other stuff, and that's how they develop their tech folks and specialists. So that was it. But so now the education system is almost the same. You mentioned masters, you mentioned bachelor's degree, so it's just different names, but it's the same process. Now, I know you've transited to the States, so now we're talking about two different ways of doing business, two different administrations, two different ways of technology, and obviously the States is way advanced, in all areas, and GPS and all the stuff kind of developed here for the most part. And I'm not even sure if that's true 100% because, all the advanced countries pretty much have, been on point with technology, and early on, and Morocco is not at the same level, at least it wasn't at the time, and 3 decades back, I mean, a lot of things, trickled very quickly. Actually, I think the country has extremely expanded their infrastructure and technology and stuff. I mean, right now, they stand amongst, some very advanced, countries around the world in a lot of areas. So, I remember I left in 92, and now it's 30 years later, and I can tell you, the stuff that's there today, it was not even there 10, 15 years ago. A lot of it is all new, but now everything from roads to trains and to the infrastructure, everything. If you think about technology, even telecom, it's pretty big there. So things have changed tremendously, but when you came here, there's definitely a transition and maybe a cultural shock, I would call it. Maybe I don't know. What was that experience like? And then we're going to talk back a little bit about the work in the country, in Morocco, and what are the things that are great and things that maybe can use some improvement in based on your expertise now that you've worked another 2 decades in the States. So what was that transition like for you?
Oh, you got that right, Isham. Concerning one thing, I'm going to go back for a couple of words. He said, lack of, you brought a lot of terminology on that stuff. There is one thing, I believe it was also your case in Morocco, as we were at that time in school, they tried to make your education like a polyvalency. That means you touch all the field related to one. For example, meaning it means all aspects of civil engineering that they are there, and once you are in school, you do a little bit of the road, you do a little bit of the the bridges and ports, all this stuff. You do hydrology, which means like irrigation or like the rural field. You do like construction. You do all aspects. And coming here to the States, the people, they say, "Oh man, you got all that." Yes, and it was free. So we are grateful in a sense of that's polyvalency or that stuff. Even though if you look at it, they stuffed you too much. They give you too many things, and you have to succeed on them. If you don't get your grades good, you gotta either like the first year they send you home, but after that, they you gotta redo the year. So. Anyway, it was everybody was aware of that, and I'm grateful that we have like this. So once I was here, certainly it's a huge difference. The basics is the same. That means the technique is the same. It's everywhere you go. The same technique as basic. You find them in Morocco, you find them in Ethiopia, you find them in the States, or you find them in Japan. The only thing is the aspect what you touch. What you touch, that means when we were in Morocco, we used to use like transit, we used to use like laser at that time because I was lucky. It starts in the 90s, so it was a laser. But other aspect, like the streets scanners or stuff, we didn't touch them at that time. I came here, I found them, and what it takes me like probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and to get like very, very efficient with them. And why? Because of that polyvalency. That means you are open in your education, and you touch this, they switch me to construction, I will be there. You switch me to, I don't know, rural management, so I can be there, like planning or anything, zoning also. So it's the same. The only thing I have, and that's true, and they believe it so, is only the units.
Metrics versus.
So,
I know.
it was the units. That's the only thing. It was like
You had to convert everything.
yeah, everything gotta be converted. So use the feet. I was so confused. So for me, it's like a foot. So should I divide it by 10, by 100? Always we use the
Centimeters.
Yeah, that's how it is. That means either you divide by 10, by 100, by 1,000, by million. Anyway, it's always like a 10 digit. But here I found no. It's completely. It has like 12 inches. And after that, when you go to the inch, is it like you divide by 10? They say you divide by 8. Oh my gosh, that's 8 to 12 to 1. Then after, so it was that little bit, but it didn't take that much time, honestly. So once you are in, you start to use those. You start to use the miles, start to use the acres, you start use the foot and the United States foot, because there is other foot, the conventional one. So that was the only thing. And it was also the communication. Lucky as because we're in Morocco, we are open to other culture. We are open, even though they start implementing English as second language in Morocco now. We used to have French and English was like the third, but when we came here, it was just like a way how to get integrated, how to communicate with people, and boom, it was in your hand, and you can express yourself, you can do the stuff. The only thing is, and honestly, is about the work cadence. That means how are the schedules here, how you can do business. So the first time I wasn't project manager, I was just staff engineer. So whatever the workflow, it comes to you, you do it, and it goes to another. But it was a little bit different in Morocco. In Morocco, we used to work and we don't finish a project. That means we touch one project, 2, 3 at the same time. And it is like a chronologic process. That means it comes from Idriss, it goes to Hisham can send it to Fatima, or I can send it to Bushra, whatever it is. But for here now, you get like that project, it's yours. Dealing from the project, proposal, meeting with the clients, meeting with the contractors. If you are good and people, they trust you, and so they go like to the process of construction, and you can go back as the project manager even for construction. For I can give an example and make it like small for better understanding. Let's see, Hisham, he has like piece of land, he want to develop it. He comes to the company, he give us what he wants to do, give him like proposal, and we get him back and there, to see what's the affinities he wants. Once he got it, we'll pass to the site plan. We'll do whatever we can do. We do like all the agencies, all the state, procedures and applications. Then we go to because you have 3 levels here. The Hisham, you have like the city or the local municipality. Then you go to the county, then the state. And if it's like something like interstate road or something like a federal, you gotta go a little bit. But still, you have too many agencies. So in the prospect, why? Because they are regulation, they are like laws you have to follow, and they are like specific, either technical or environmental. That means you can't do something if it doesn't go with the deal in the same sequence. No, it can be like denied. That's the only thing I found. But so far on, nothing major. That's it. Is one system in and out is easy.
Well, you obviously got used to it. I mean, you've been doing this for quite a bit, and also you mentioned that you went to NGIT, which is basically New Jersey Institute of Technology, which is pretty advanced in the tech world, and it's one of the better ones there. And you've caught up to all the the shenanigans of the business and the intricate stuff like the tricks of the trade, as we call them, and but of course you had to adapt to stuff. But I just want to go back to a couple of things you mentioned, interestingly, because you did say about the way the education system in Morocco is, and there is an advantage to it, and maybe there's a disadvantage, depends on which angle you look at it. The advantage, to your point, they cram a lot of stuff into you, and so you by default you have no choice. It's not like you can pick and choose what you want in your, let's say, your bachelor's program. It's not up to you. You have 12 subject matters that you have to go through every year, and they determine those, and you have to pass them, and that's it. That some of them can be irrelevant to you at the time. You don't think like it's going to be relevant, and then you keep going. I mean, it does exist in the States too, in the education system, because you have your basic stuff that you have to go through, but you still have, you can tweak your major, you can have your electives and stuff. There's no electives there. They elect them for you. So that's the difference.
Yeah.
And then when you're done, you're right. You have a little bit of everything, so you have a good understanding of a lot of things, but you don't specialize anything. You want to specialize. That's when you go to advanced education, and that's when you go grad, level and up, and then you can get more specific, and so in a way that is good because it gives you a lot more, and the way the education system there so is different because it's not like multiple choice. You either know your stuff or you don't. You got to memorize your crap, and you have to know exactly what's going on. If not, they give you a problem in the exam, you'd be like, it's not like I have a choice here. Let me just guess which one, A, B, C, D. That doesn't work that way. So that system doesn't exist there. Or at least it didn't exist, at the time that we were there. And that is also a differentiator in terms of your knowledge ability, because you can really bypass, and by the way, we're not undermining the education system in the States. It has its own merits and definitely works, and it's leading the world in a lot of areas. But the fact is just the way it's administered is differently, so it pushes people to do it to really force themselves to actually know the concepts. And if you don't know the concepts, you may not be as now. Even the multiple choice, typically it's still difficult, but you can, some people still guess and be able to pass, but it doesn't help them in the long run. But at the end of the day, it's a system that way. So that's one part that I just wanted to highlight, and the fact that you said the way the workflow goes. So workflow, over there, like you said, you're doing like multiple things at the same time, and you start a project, and then somebody else, gets their hands mixed into it. But here, you're in charge of the whole thing. This is your baby, and you're responsible from A to Z. And anything that breaks down, you're accountable for it. And that's a problem, especially when you're talking about millions of dollars involved in a project. Yep. Your head is in the news right now. I mean, you mess up, forget about it, right? You can't be successful if you're not paying attention to the details and really be aware of everything that's going there. So you have your board, you have your who's doing what, and to your point, there's also different aspects of the game. You're dealing with the local municipality, you're looking with the state, if most of the county, and to your point, if it crosses any federal land, that's another thing, and depends on the type of project. And then also you have to deal with contractors and things like that. Everything is third party for the most part. Is that actually a question about that? How does that in Morocco? I mean, are they private contractors that are recruited by the cities and the project for the project, or it's actually they are employees of the government?
No, the thing, as I told you, after the 2010, I believe in Morocco they start like changing the way how to do business. First of all, they start like to deal with the regions. That means they start like to get away from the center, from Rabat, okay, so for projects and stuff. Then they start creating what they call the urban agencies, and those urban agencies, they were like kind of county, like if we can like compare them to the state, is like county agency, which it can regulate the zoning. It can regulate, the planning of each region or each municipality, and also it can determine which projects it can be feasible. Talking about the feasibility, or we can reject projects because it doesn't, match that area, doesn't match that population, doesn't match, the things start to get better. But talking about the liability, which you just invoke it here, like millions of dollars, hundred millions of dollars, or billions, if you can see it, if it's depends about the size of the project.
Yep.
So here what we have like the professional liability. Professional liability, everybody likes to be aware of liability, and whoever has his hand in the project, he needs to be covered. So from engineers to lawyers to doctors, everybody has insurance. He has to pay to buy it, and that policy, it must cover that liability, that professional liability. So I don't know if they have it in Morocco. I'm doubting, but it should be. So here, if you are project manager and something happened, you cannot pay it from your pockets. It has to be things happen, but it has to be through insurance, and that insurance covers. In Morocco, what's also they have, it's about the agencies. The agencies, they can make you change the whole project. The whole project.
You're talking about government agencies?
Yeah, government agencies, and even the government, either local or federal, the same. So you don't have that much freedom, to do it the way you want it, or the way you gotta go the way they want it. The way they want it. So why? I can tell you, because there are regulations, and you follow those regulations. There are specifications, you follow those specifications, but this is how they want it. So sometimes you have that conflict, which is not here in the state. The state, it has to be just once you are okay with your people, and they believe you are in your municipality. You have, sometimes you get invitation, or you get an email from the city. Why, Mr. Hisham? Because there is kind of project, it's within 500 feet of your residency, okay, and you have to go to a planning board meeting, or why you go to that meeting, that city meeting, they make you aware. So Hisham and his neighbors, if they want that project to be, they will vote for it to go. If they don't want it, it's not gonna go. It's not gonna go. That's why you have to, the decision, the final decision, even it has economic issues, it can create jobs, whatever. But if it's not, it's gonna create a problem for our community, we can deny it. So that's the only difference I found between projects in Morocco and projects here.
Well, so I'm gonna throw a caveat for you. So yes. Eminent domain can take away that right of the citizens. So if something is, if it's must have, like you mentioned, roads and things like that, sometimes even if the community doesn't agree, they'll still pass it under eminent domain and whatever, and they can even, take land for that. Now, wouldn't that be the same concept in Morocco? It's just that I guess in Morocco it's always eminent domain as opposed to exception.
No, the eminent domain, it exists in every country worldwide. That means something's gonna be benefit for the states, for the country, for and especially when you talk about dams, the big projects, either the dams or roads or bridges, or even for irrigation or so. So that's eminent domain. It has to go there, but the compensation is fair.
There you go. That's the key element.
In Morocco they called the public interest. The public is eminent domain. So the same way. But what I'm talking here, I'm talking about private project. Let's see, I'm doing a plaza, just shopping, little shopping plaza. that shopping plaza, when I apply it, do everything. So they come to your community and they see like, they did like a radius in a map, like 200 radius people, and they invite them all to that meeting.
Yes.
And they explain them. And the engineer has to be there with the lawyer, with the landlord, with the developer, and they have to explain it to you guys. That project is gonna be like in the community, gonna create jobs, gonna create the make like the proximity for your business, for this and that. So it's up to you, citizens. You can say, oh, okay, we can like it's gonna be benefit, it's gonna be good, and it doesn't create no problem. But if I see that little shopping center is gonna be like kind of, I don't know, oven there, it's gonna like or I don't know, like noisy, it's gonna be like I don't know, bar or anything like live music.
Yeah.
I'm just like giving examples. That's odds, but this is how it is. If we say no, we don't need. And if you see here, people they look for like space, especially in South Jersey or like in Central Jersey. I like to have my house when I open the window. I don't want to see another.
Anyway.
That's how they have. It's not like us in Morocco. We've been like always educated, in the reverse. That means I don't want to be like isolated. I need to have like neighbors.
That's true.
Here is different. So that's why I'm telling you, bring it like that's the difference. In Morocco, if they need like to have like a shopping center and like the agency or the government agency, they want it, that's it. Regardless.
Well, that's why I referred to eminent domain. I mean, they use basically the public interest or whatever their decision making is really done. It's over.
Sometimes Hisham is not even like eminent domain.
I know. They just take
something like it's 100% private. I'm gonna do like let's see doctor office with the parking lot and stuff. If they don't want it here, they cannot.
Well, actually, it's funny you said that because I've seen that like where you're in a pure residential area and then they open up in a villa, they open up a restaurant or a coffee shop. Yeah, it's got no belonging there. It's not a commercial area, but it happens, which is completely weird, and I still don't understand how it happens. I mean, I think I know how it happens. We're not political on the show. We just want to make sure that we share the value with and audiences, listening in to actually understand the different dynamics. And I love what you said because true, I can tell you an example just close to my area where I live. They needed to put what do you call those cell phone towers. And that was a big project. They had to put the tower, and it was only like a couple hundred, yards away from like a high school, and it was a big deal. I mean, the community was all up and running, and everybody was invited. And there was a lot of reaction to it. I mean, eventually the project was because they presented all the real, the environment impact, as you mentioned earlier, and all that stuff was there. And so ultimately it was distant enough not to have, any adverse reaction and all the stuff that's usually coming with some sort of a emission, of any radioactive, well, not radioactive, but radio frequencies. And so that's one piece. But you're right. In Morocco, you don't have that. If a project is there, you just are surprised and it's there. It's over. And again, for our audiences in Morocco or in the States or all over the world, this is just something that could be eventually changed, and maybe by having a discussion about it, that can be this is the part we're comparing, contrasting a little bit of the different approaches, and maybe there is an opportunity to change things around and give people the ability to actually make some decision on their environment. To your point, when you put something and you force something on people, they'll accept it because they have no choice. But the reaction is always going to be a negative piece, and it's not going to be good. Here you have, again, the government here has access and has power, but there is limitation. There's also people's power. I mean, whether it's in the courtroom, whether it's in a lot of places, there's always the opinion of people. You judge. You have the ability to have at least an input as residents or civilians, right? And I think that to a degree. I mean, there's always a limit to everything, but to a degree, you have much better this. And again, in other parts of the world, I mean, this show is for all Moroccans and for all people that have interest in Morocco, and just understanding the dynamics different countries. We're talking about just the engineering part and just the project management of like development, for example, in this case, right? That is a big deal, but it's a big change. I mean, there's different things that can happen in one country versus the other. The cultures are different. To your point, if in Morocco, if the government decides that this is going to be, it happens. Sometimes you just said it, a private entity, has enough clout, and they can make that happen. And that's the bottom line. If they have the right connections and they have enough money, they can actually make it happen. Here, even with the connections and the money, it's very difficult to do it. I mean, it can happen, but it's not as frequent, and it will be with a lot of fight because you have to really,
absolutely.
you have to really there's a lot of work that gets done to be there. And I wanted to also go back to the liability, as you said, and that is a big deal. I mean, here everybody is accountable. You're a doctor, you have to have malpractice. The reason everybody is afraid, and they do the best that they can do to the most extent, and never guarantee 100%, but they do the best that they can in every aspect of life. Whether, I mean, I'm in the insurance world, we have to have insurance. In the medical world, you have to have malpractice insurance. In your world, you have to have liability insurance. Everything is insured because the law is very severe sometimes here, and does deliver. So if you mess up with a project, you mess up with someone, somebody gets hurt, and you get sued, there are millions of dollars at stake, and they will go after you, personal asset. So it changes the dynamics. And I guess in Morocco is a little different. The system is completely different from what we have here in the States. So that makes a big difference. So again, the liability level, I'm not clear about how it works in Morocco, but I know here that you cannot do anything unless you're protected. And because also that even if you have insurance and you, God forbid, you do something wrong, well, you can lose your license. You can, you may not be able to find work. You might not ever have to have a job again if you ever do something that's catastrophic. So that's a different, element that, maybe not different, but maybe something that could be adopted in Morocco and a lot of other places, because I think that's a good thing to have, to hold people responsible to the highest level. And the insurance industry actually can win from this too, because they can make some money out of these policies, if they know how to operate them well. But it does also create a little bit of a safety net, or also just a peace of mind, because, God forbid something happens the same way and there's no liability. What happens? Who's going to pay for the damage, right? And go to court. Okay, well, we go to court. What happens? We can be there in a few decades, right? It's a little different. It is a fact. I mean, I'm not saying this. This is what people state in, and this is the reality of things. And so that could change, by just adopting new ways of thinking and new, forms. And there is money to be made in this too. So maybe there's an opportunity for agent companies to actually get involved in this, and maybe even legislation to actually be put in place in Morocco to change a little bit the dynamics, to create that, if people know that they're liable, they're accountable, and that will cost them, and there's no such thing as I'm going to just pay off, and deal with people or settle things. It doesn't work that way. It has to be in the system where you have to set the example with some people. If they do the wrong, they have to pay the price, right? Here, if someone gets caught, they really pay. And if they can't pay the money, they go to jail. So it's very difficult to actually mess up with projects like this. And very rarely people get out of these things. And the law is, not above anybody. I mean, the law is not, as I say, it's not above anyone. No one is above the law here, right? That's the difference. So I think that's important. And maybe again, for audiences in Morocco or all over the world, it is just the way it's done in the States. And I guess in a lot of parts, probably do the same way, even stronger. But there are parts maybe where it's less, it's more flexible, it's less, rigid, and that's the problem. We don't want it that way. So hopefully, from this platform, people can hear it, and maybe somebody can get a spark and start thinking about, let's put something in place to make these things happen, right? And give some of these folks the ability to actually decide and talk about what their opinion and stuff. That's the other thing here. To your point, a whole community can stop a project, period, and out. And I've seen that happen. Yep. I mean, I have a background in real estate. I teach in real estate law and stuff in New York, and part of it, we talk about all these things in those courses and things like that. And there was a lot of cases where projects were completely dismantled and never went through because, community boards, all these discussions are happening, and planning boards, these things can be in place. Communities can completely stop the project over and out, and that's it. Nothing's going on. So that power of the people is very, important. But again, it's every country has a different way of looking at that and what it means. But the fact here today, we're just kind of comparing a little bit, what's available in the States. And, this is, again, talking about the contrast. You come in from one side of the world to here and finding some differences that are really different. I mean, these are real major differences in the way the practice is. Now, you as the project manager here, you're taking, you understand that, and you automatically adapt to it. and work within those confines. And then therefore you always are meticulous about everything. You guys make sure like you cross your T's and you dot your I's and you make sure that every single thing is done properly. The engineers are on site, everybody's doing their part. The contractors have to be vetted out. They have to have their insurance. They have to also have their the safety measures for their employees. I mean, OSHA and all this stuff is. See, that's
Yes.
we can talk a whole hour about that. The safety measures in actual a project. When you start, building the project, here everything is restricted. I mean, you have to have permits for everything, and the permits, there's inspections of everything, ongoing inspections, and
Yes.
so that's an area that you cannot default here on, and they will fail you. I mean, I know,
Yeah,
for example,
absolutely.
in Jersey, you mentioned Jersey. In Jersey, some townships, I mean, they'll fail you for 3 times, 4 times, 5 times before they give you a permit for one or a pass on one thing. Maybe just the electrical stuff. It could be just a building stuff. It could be plumbing stuff. It could be anything. If it's not, you missed, you're 1 foot away, talking about feet, 1 foot away from the setback, whatever. You just built a little bit further. No, you can't do it this way. So all that stuff is a very important piece. And, again, I have not worked in Morocco, and I don't know how that works there, but here definitely that is a tough, there are tough measures, and there's monitoring of all this stuff. And then of course you have the media, you have the news, they're ready. You have also, you mentioned legal. I mean, legal here is everything. Everything has to have some legal, protection, and everybody, there's no project without lawyers, and documents and contracts are very well written to protect everybody that's in their interests. And so it's very difficult to just mess up on these things. So that's a big deal. So now that we talked about all that, now let's talk about just the concept. You're here, you're working in different projects. So what are some of the projects that your work does, and what's the impact of those projects?
Yeah, the project, they are, as I told you, they are various here in the United States, as you said, like from a little scale, talking about real estate. This is like the thing, like the first step in. You go like to the land development, like in business and the commercial. So we're talking about like a business area, including malls, including like what they call them, the business parks. And this is like the business parks. I found that in Morocco lately, they start having them. They call them zone industrial. That means zone industrial in Morocco. They start having like everything like getting away from the city and the vicinity of the vicinity of the city. So like a little bit gonna be like more logistic, more fluid, transportation and so for the goods. That's a good thing. Also, we can kind of projects we did like state highways, local highways, roads, bridges, and especially after like that's the tragedy of the collapsing bridge, like 12 years ago or 15 years ago. That was you remember here.
Yep.
So they start like revising the age of the bridges here, and especially in the interstate highways, because even though we look in technical aspects of the concrete, you can say that bridge can last like 100 years, but it was in one time, like in 1950 or 1940, it was less traffic, it was less heavy, trailers and stuff. Now what's the traffic flow in highways and stuff. So this has impact. That's why the age is not like guaranteed. So it goes like with more inspection, and that inspection, it determines if the bridge has to be redone from scratch. That means if you see them, you're driving now in the state highway and you see like a lot of works, if in all the states practically, and in Jersey is like everywhere. So this is one of the aspects that we have in now. Also, there is one thing, and they hope if they can do it in Morocco, it's the solar generated power. So as you see here, it's photovoltaic, technology. That means even though we have sun, we don't have it like the high heat here in Jersey or so, but still we have the daylight, and with that light it can generate. So the people start like investing on that solar farms. We call them solar farms, and those solar farms, they are going like from your house, from that's a little scale, as we say. It goes to like bigger farms, and those farms, they are like sand pits, where we used to extract sand, or we extract to get some material and stuff. So they are now deserts. They don't have nobody who can take care of them, because their topography, because the aspects of the land. So they try to put, like, some people invest, they put like a solar farm. So they generate power and they sell it, and they get profits of it. So it's not only governments, everybody can go. We have people coming from Dakota, either south or north, and they invest here. People coming from California, they invest. So wherever they can have like land, which it cannot be developed as like construction or
Right.
housing or anything else. It can be done as solar farm. So this is one of the aspects. We are like, right now we have a lot of those projects in hand.
Well, thank you.
And yes.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
And we have also like the laser project, which is like marinas, and like the area where I live used to be like a lot of whatchamacallem, casinos and stuff, and the casino industry now it's popped to other states. But people, they are doing like the laser project, which is the water parks, the amusement parks, and those also, like, believe it or not, is very high technology involved in this fields too.
Well, yeah. Well, thank you. That's a lot of projects, a lot of types, and I like the idea of the solar farms, because, to your point, I mean, we do have in Morocco, they do have solar, power. They have I think the largest in Africa, solar plant. But that's different. That's generating for the country or whatever. But it's not, like your point. It's not individual. It's not owned by the public or by individuals who just like investors. And what you're saying here is like that people are taking advantage of land that is not workable, land that and useless in a way, but now they just use it to be the actual background, the foundation of these panels, and generate something that's valuable that they can use and sell, and potentially with cheaper I would say energy level, so cost. So that's important. Well, listen, I do want to bring you back to discuss, a little bit more about just the your expertise in some of the, like, for example, the roads and the engineering piece of that, and maybe we'll talk about some of the advantages. And, like, for example, I was in Morocco, and there are a few things that I've noticed personally that I do not understand from an engineer perspective what's their purpose. For example, those roundabouts, and we, I have to say, I mean, I've traveled quite a bit around the world, and we have roundabouts in the States, we have them in Europe, but just the dynamics of those roads, because the way people drive in those things and the way they merge at the end. And this is just an example. We can talk about a lot of things. So if you don't mind, I'd like to have a second, discussion with you to talk a little bit, not just about Morocco in general, the different things, and how the dynamics of these things work in real engineering, and how they should be according to the norms, worldwide norms, and whether they're applied or not applied, and how we can improve them if possible. So does that make sense? Is that do we have a deal there?
Yeah. Actually, I agree with you concerning those turnabout. The definition, or like let's say like technical aspect to install or to plan like a turnabout, that means it has to be a major intersection. That's what it is.
So hold on. We're gonna hold that for the next show, because we want to talk about that along with the whole infrastructure. So I know we don't want to break it down today. So I know we can spend hours on that one, because that's gonna get me excited. It is a tough one. But so like I said, we would like to do a second run, and we'll talk more about the technicalities, and just like the different, and we'll have a lot more than just roundabouts. I mean, there's so many other things, to talking about bridges, trains,
Okay.
and so on and so forth. There's so many things that we can talk about. Hopefully, we can bring that, awareness and just share your expertise and experience and kind of like give some examples, real examples of how it works in the States, for example, and how it can be beneficial in Morocco or any other place for that matter.
Mhm.
So and we just coming to the end of the hour here. That's why, and I don't want to cut it off, and it's very interesting, but we
Yep.
want to do something different, and we'll just have that. So today, first of all, I want to thank you, for being here, for sharing, who is Idriss and what you do here. I mean, many people know you and they may not know the work that you do and how important it is and how big it is, and also your expertise and what you bring into the table here. And you obviously are contributing to some major projects nationally here, or at least in a statewide, and that's a big thing, and that is a pride, to us, and
Thank you.
anybody that of Moroccan origin. So we wanted to highlight that and highlight you as a guest here, but also I think we have an opportunity to maybe do a few shows to talk about just engineering in general.
Anytime. Anytime,
So I,
I'm
I
here. No
enjoyed
problem.
this. So any last pointers for our guest, for I mean our audiences today?
Uh, I believe all what I can say from my point of experience here, what we should do in Morocco, do a little bit like that transfer of technology from here, or the thing has how to be done. That means inspection has to be starting from the breaking land. That means when we start like the projects, anything we should do like here, anything you cannot backfill a foundation without inspection. Has inspector has to be there. A contractor cannot like open like a manhole or inlet without inspector from the city or from there. It has to be there. He's not coming and he will go. No, he stay with you, and before that you cover it, because from the surface it will look nice, but what is in
Oh, you,
so that's what the inspection has to be there. It's involved there, it's paid for, and he has to be there. Anything. So what you prevent tragedies, you prevent all those problems. I went to, just land acquisition of apartments, and a little electric problem occurs there. And I got my brother-in-law, him, and his electrician here in the States. He starts electrician in Morocco. He went to school in Morocco. But the way how they have those boxes, the boxes, they don't have like the relays. That means there is nothing like, all what they do, they tie them and they put. So where is the inspector? Who was he?
mm,
Was he there the time when they were like, putting those wires in the walls or stuff? No, he wasn't. So when we open it, it was, I can't tell you, it's like abracadabra. You gotta be magic, some kind of magician to find out what's going on there. So that's my things we have. We have laws, Hisham. We have laws in Morocco. We have like things how to be done, but it has to be enforced. Here you see what you have on the label of that inspector. It's called code enforcement.
enforcement.
They don't call him inspector. Code enforcement. That means there is a code either in electric, in construction, in site. OSHA is there, as I told you, in all aspects of projects. So you prevent tragedies and you get the things right, done right, and they can be zero liability in the future. That's how it is.
Well, thank you for that advice. And you know what? You touch on some other stuff about code enforcement and all the stuff, and the actual inspection piece of it. So next show, we're gonna just focus on those things, and we're gonna talk about, like I said, all the different things that we've observed or that we think that can be done differently, and also what can be done from an experience, to change some of the dynamics to be safer. And you mentioned all these elements about OSHA, about the relay, the inspectors being there, review, somebody is always there and the code enforcement part. So we're going to do that. So that being said, Idriss, thank you so much for being here today, and I appreciate the
My
time.
pleasure. Thank you.
Folks, I hope that you've enjoyed this discussion, and that it was valuable to open up, some of our, views on and just give us an idea of certain things and how they're done in comparison in two different countries here. And stay tuned for the next one. We'll be talking soon. I'm your host, Hurricane H. We'll be talking soon. Bye for now. Thank you.
Thank you.